Okay, so today we're going to talk about multiplying exponents. So the first thing I just want to make sure that we remember is if we have a to the fifth power, that's how we would read this. And we would call this 5 up here. This is our exponent. And then this 5 down here, this is this a down here, this is our base. So when we're referring to exponents, we're referring to our base, which is our bottom number, and then our exponent, which is the top. We can also call this a power, and our math book does for a lot of what we're talking about today. So the other thing we need to remember is that a to the fifth power is equal to a times a times a times a times a, right? Because a to the fifth is multiplying a 5 times. So a times a times a times a times a. Now, there's different ways to solve multiplication of exponent problems, and there's different ways that we're going to multiply exponents. So our first one is called product of powers. When we're taking products of powers, what we're essentially doing is taking two numbers with the same base, like a to the second times a to the fifth. So they have the same base and different exponents. And when we solve these, because we're just adding together we're multiplying together two numbers with the same base, all we're going to do is add our exponents. So we're going to take a to the second times a to the fifth, and we're going to do a to the 2 plus 5, which is a to the 7th. So our answer to a to the second times a to the fifth is just a to the 7th. Now, if we were doing this with numbers, we'd have something like 3 to the third times 3 to the 4th. So we would add together 3 plus 4, keep our base the same, and that would give us 3 to the 7th. Then we could obviously plug 3 to the 7th into our calculator, and that would tell us what the answer is as an actual answer. But 3 to the 7th would be our simplified exponent answer. So the next type of multiplication problem that we could run into with exponents is called a power of a power. Now, a power of a power is when we're multiplying together two powers. Remember, power is another word for exponent. So in this case, we have a to the second, and then we have all of a to the second raised to the fifth power. So now we're taking a and we're multiplying 2 to the 5 as an exponent, because we're multiplying 2 to the fifth power, or raising 2 to the fifth power. So now our answer is going to be a to the 10th power. So again, with numbers, if we have 3 to the third, and then we're raising that to the 4th power, what we're going to have is 3 to the 3 times 4, which would also be 3 to the 12th. Now again, we can plug that into our calculator, or we can multiply 3 12 times by each other. Lastly, our other problem that we can solve with exponents is a power of a product. Ooh, that is very little. We can't read that. So a power of a product is when we already have some numbers, and all we're going to do is distribute our exponent to that product. So our product here is going to be negative 2xy to the third, and we're raising all of that to the fifth power. So what we're basically doing is raising negative 2 to the fifth power, x to the fifth power, and y to the third to the fifth power. So we're going to write that negative 2 to the fifth power, and then x to the fifth power, and then y to the third to the fifth power. And remember, because we're raising an exponent to an exponent, we have to multiply those exponents together. So now we have negative 2 to the fifth, which is going to give us negative 32, x to the fifth, which is going to stay as it is, and then y to the 3 times 15, which is y to the 15th. So for our power of a product rule, we're multiplying each number inside our product, which is this, by a power, which is our 5 up here. So each number, negative 2, x, and y to the third to the fifth power. And those are basically the three ways that we are going to multiply